Afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Joining us today, as always, is my counterpart, Veronica Boudreau. And I want to take a moment to say thank you for, hosting last week when I was out. I really appreciate that. You and Jane did a fantastic job.
Well, thank you, Adam. We are happy, and actually, I should say thrilled that you're back.
Yeah, I bet. So thanks everyone for taking the time to join today. I wanted to walk you through one of our latest releases, which is our Coveted Agent Detail Report. I know we've spent a lot of time talking about queues, and while queue detail and queue summary reports give great visibility into queue activity, they only show what happens within the queue. So what about tracking overall productivity for your individual agents, including maybe inbound calls or outbound calls that might make that are not queue related, and calls handled through the queue, and you can see it visibly in one report, right? That's exactly where the agent detail report comes in. This powerful new report provides a comprehensive view of both your agent's activities, helping you better understand productivity trends and performance across your teams. Now, the one thing I do want to put as a caveat to today's discussion is that access to this report is specific. So if your organization does have the professional or enterprise plan, the agent detail report will include those inbound and outbound and queue calls. However, if you're on basic and essentials plan, the report will only show your queued calls because that's what those plans include. Okay. So we'll kind of go over that a little bit later when we're actually in the report. So I'm going to do my standard housekeeping rules. I almost think like at this point, I say them all week, every week. You guys would know them by heart, but maybe for the newcomers. So let's go ahead and talk about the rules. So there's going to be time for Q&A following this presentation. We can ask any questions regarding today's topic, or honestly, anything at all. At this point, you can ask me anything you want. I know that opens the door, but hey, it's you've got me. Might as well ask me the questions. Let's also talk about the Q&A section. So we're going to go ahead and disable chat because it's easier to keep it all in one spot. Q&A will be open, and Veronica will be monitoring that section during today's call. So if you want to ask something in the moment, you can go ahead and do so in that space. Secondly, once the presentation is over, I'll give you the ability to unmute yourself, and you can utilize the hand raise function so that we can call upon you in the order that we receive your questions. And then lastly, I'm going to keep the recording going during the Q&A. Don't worry about that. I cut that out for the recorded part of it. It's just easier for me to know who asked questions, kind of follow up with anybody that did ask questions, and I didn't take note as to who was the one asking the question. So no biggie. All right, again, one more time, I want to thank you all for being here, and let's go ahead and dive right in. So I'm going to go ahead and switch on over to ISI Analytics. I've already logged in. I'm in my production system. And we can go ahead and kind of switch over real quick. I'm going to switch to my little dashboard. We're not going to talk about dashboards, but I do kind of want to bring up the fact that right now in the dashboard that I've created, we've got a demo queue that I have been working on with another agent, and we've done some dummy calls. So we've called in, called out, had some data where we're showing calls coming into the queue, agent making outbound and inbound calls. And so, so you're going to see me and Isaac both show up in the data. Okay. And so you have the queue data to be able to see what's going on in the queues. Sure. But let's go ahead and jump over to the detail, the agent detail report. So we're going to go ahead and go into report templates. And we're going to go to new template here at the upper right hand corner. And you're going to see, depending on your system, you're going to see a list. So whether it's Microsoft Teams, agent detail, or what we released, which we updated both really, because the team agent detail report was available, but we've updated some logic with it when we released the Webex agent detail report. And so I'm going to go ahead and go into this new Webex agent detail report here. And it's going to have a lot of your standard features that we've talked about in many of my previous scenarios. We've got fields that you can add in. And of course, we have the standard fields that we think would come standard for a detail report. So the caller, where they came from, what direction the call's going in, start time, wait time, the source action, that kind of stuff, disposition, so if the call was missed or not, their talk time, the final action, and final destination. The one thing that I do say that is a little different in this particular report versus a detail report is that we do have a group by already pre-selected. And as a reminder, when it comes to group bys, these are how you can kind of lump all of a specific field together. So it's doing agent because what we're going to do and what you're going to see here is that when I run this report, you're going to see it broken down by the two agents. If I removed this field and reran the same report, you would have all the data between all the agents just mixed together. We just go by time, date and time, basically, which maybe that's something you would want to do, and you wouldn't want to filter it by the agent. You want to see from a daily aspect, kind of just like the calls coming in, and maybe Adam takes them more in the morning, and then Isaac takes them in the afternoon. Who's to say? But as a default, the agent field is already here as a group by, and I would have to click on the radial to change that. Notice I can't change any of the filters or the columns or the fields because I have not selected that. Okay. And you can always add in other fields or that makes sense to this report or anything that you might feel you might need. But for now, I think that the standard in this report is pretty good. Okay. But what I am going to do is filter. So in an agent detail report, you wouldn't filter on queue because at that point you're going to, I don't even think queue, I don't even think queue is an option here, because if you did that, then the agent report just turns into a queue detail report. And we're not wanting to do that. We want to see an agent level report. So we're actually just going to go ahead and add agent, which is a filter here to the report. And again, we've got the operators equals, does not equal. So I could say, give me everybody but Adam. Or realistically, I'm going to say, I only want Adam. And then we're going to actually add it. We're going to have a little drop down here for all the available agents that we can report on. And I'm going to go ahead and select myself. I'm also going to go ahead and select Isaac. Where are you, Isaac? There you are. All right. So these are my two individuals that are, doing test calls in our product. And I'll talk about general real quick. I know we've talked about it, but I'll just cover it since it's here and I went through the other two tabs. General does allow you to change the date format. So if you did want it a little different, okay. All right. So now that I've selected agent and I've got the two agents that I want to run on, I'm going to just run this report, okay. And just as a brief review between run now and preview, if I run preview right now, it doesn't even ask me dates. It's just going to give me data. It just wants to, what it's trying to do is show you a preview of the kind of data you would get in this report. What does it look like, right? And so it's going to try and run, and I think it's going to try and do as much as it possibly can, up to 10,000 records. So this might take a while, right? Depending on your system. Okay. I actually just want to run it. So I don't use preview that often. I typically do run nows more often than not, because I want to specify what I want to see when I preview the data, right? I don't need it to load up 10,000 records. I just want to see maybe the last 7 days, which might be only a handful of calls or whatnot. And you do have the ability to select your different date and time ranges, which we've talked about in other sessions. For now, for this data, based on the test calls and stuff like that I've run on these, I'm going to do about 7 days worth of data. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say run, and you're going to see another tab opens up in this report. So we have the original here, and now this is the new tab. And you're going to see right now, based on those group bys, that it is grouping the agents. So you can see Adam with a count of 24 and Isaac with a count of 6. And there's a little carrots here that allow you to expand out the data. So let's go ahead and expand out myself. Click on that. It'll go ahead and load up the information. And from here, you can see and very easily determine the calls that are just dealt by the agents. So you're going to see if they don't have a source, like say CSQ demo, if they don't have any of that in the in those fields, and those are my queued calls. versus these are my direct calls. So I did some outbound calls on my, my phone. I received some, well, these are inbound to the queue, but we also have some inbound from an external phone number. So like you're getting in this report a mix of both your queue calls as well as your non-queued calls. And so this is where the productivity will happen. You're going to be able to see this data and determine, and you could build the report to be like, show it, have another group by, and show me like source actions and have it kind of broken down that way. So there are abilities to kind of filter that out. Or you could even export this data to a CSV and play with the data that way. So some features though. So I mean, you're going to see the fields here, the caller fields, the call origination. So we're saying that the tests were coming from an auto attendant that goes into the CS demo queue that's presented to Adam, and either I answered or I missed the call. Talk time. There's wait time. And if we scroll on over, you'll still also get your final action. So completed by agent, missed by agent. There's probably even some forwarded to voicemail, caller left a voicemail. So you're going to see all this extra information in your report to kind of give yourself a broader idea of how this agent is handling their calls in the time frame that you're looking. Now, we are looking at a web version of the report. You can always export these, as I've said before. But one feature that I think is overlooked in many scenarios is the more information icon on the left. So I'm going to go ahead and select this auto attendant queued call. As a reminder, you can look at more information of this call. So you can see, the start date and time, the call direction, some of the lag information. So you can see the dispositions, you can see the talk time, the total time, which includes the wait time, some of the final action items, as well as final destination. So if they get transferred off, it would give you more information here. And speaking of transfers, you would also have the ability to look at the transfer path. So you're going to be able to see the call come into a queue, like the auto attendant get transferred to the queue for 12 minutes or 12 seconds, then get pushed over to the CS demo. It was on the wait 3 seconds in that queue, and then it was answered. They talked for 15 seconds, and then Adam, if that was the final destination, it did not go anywhere else, so completed by agent. And so the total time for that leg was 18 seconds. Okay. If you had more transfers between your different queues, you would actually see, or even different agents, you would see all of that listed here for you to be able to report on. Okay. And so, like I said, the Webex agent detail is our latest report. It's specifically for Webex. We just released it. Microsoft Teams, that report did exist, but they did also some updates when they redid the Webex. So both of them are now released. If you're wanting additional information on that release, I was going to talk about that today. We can go ahead and head over to our website, which is isianalytics.com.
Actually, Adam,
Yeah,
can I
sure.
interrupt? I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
2 questions actually from Ken. One of them, do you mind if we, before you continue, if you could kind of go over the attributes of the fields before you ran the report? And 2, does the transfer path show up in an exported CSV file?
Transfer path. No, I don't believe the transfer path does show up in an exported file because this is like all of its own data. That's a great question. I'm going to write that one down because that to me is a transfer call path report, which I don't know that that's fully, I don't know if it's built out yet. But that's a good question. I will have to look into as to when maybe that's something that they're thinking about including. And then go over the attributes of the fields. Absolutely. Actually, there should be, here's the thing. There's a couple different ways for you to determine the attributes of a field. Oh, you're talking about attributes. So if you go to a field and you click on attribute, typically it's going to let you change the name of it. So whatever whatever its already like default name is, how you want to sort on it, so that's a default. So do you want it to sort on this field versus maybe date and time? When it comes to like the export to like Excel, do you want the alignment of the data to be left, center, or right? You can change so the external party display is going to show the phone number, or you could technically do caller ID name, and every field will have its own attribute, and then internal party displayed as, and then you can change those fields as well. So if I go to something else like say start time, again, this one just gives you the ability to change the name versus a sort. So this one start time is sorted by ascending versus the alignment is just left. Okay. So, you check them all out. They all have particular options that you can change, and that's usually just what is being displayed, right? So if I did source, yeah, external party displayed as a phone number, or if you want it caller ID versus, the internal party displayed as name, or do you want it their extension, or do you want it like the device rather than the name, or even like the phone number or something like that. Okay. I want to say that the fields are described in in the help section, but I don't know if the attributes for each field are described. So I'll have to look into that as well. That's a good question. You've gave me some good questions to look into. As for options in our help documentation that I'm not sure of, let's actually take a quick look. I'm going to go back to the ISI Analytics. We're going to go ahead and go to resources. And I'm going to go to release history first. The reason why I'm going to go to release history, which I already have it open, is that it opens up our recent release, which talks about our October release, and it talks about, say, like the agent detail for Webex. So this is the documentation that about this particular report. It does give the available fields, and it does give a description, but like you said, it does not really list out the attributes. So I think that, and I'm wondering, I'm going to do attributes.
Adam, this is fantastic. It's like a continuation of the last office hour session.
So yeah, we have a lot of the descriptions of fields, but it does not also list out it does not list out the attributes. And I don't know that we have a document on attributes. So that actually gives me something to work on. I think that's actually an excellent question, and that should be listed out. I mean, sure, it's in the report, and you can certainly click on that and kind of decipher, or at least, if anything, there needs to be an I symbol here that like kind of describes out the different attributes and what they do or what they mean for the people that are kind of looking at that. So good question. Love it. Thank you, Ken, as always. Okay, so that covers I wanted to talk about the release notes as well as the documentation, which I can close this one out. I gotta move this hidden bar that you guys don't see out of the way. So going back to release history, we can look at the last releases, which I definitely recommend if you're curious about what we have been doing, what we've been working on. Definitely check out release notes. They give a lot of information, like specifically, I'm going to go a little off topic, our custom roles, which we just released, which is great. Custom roles are going to allow you to, and I'm going to go ahead and save my report for office hours agent detail. I'm going to say okay. We're going to go into the user section. So right now there is the ability when you create a user in the system that when you select, so if I just do Adam, at email.com, just to get us to the point where I can select a user role and say user. For standard permissions, you can technically do a custom role. And when you do custom role, you have to come in here and select all the settings that you want, right? Well, then you'd have to do that for every individual that you're giving access to. Well, what we've released is the ability to create a custom role that has all of the selections in that standard custom role You can set all this permissions you want, and then you can easily apply that custom role to individuals to give them. And then if at any time in the future you want to change that custom role to have less access, it would also change that for every user that has this custom role that you've created. It would change all their settings as well. So it's a dynamic role that you can set up for particular users. Okay, that's a new release, and I wasn't going to talk about it, but I like to talk about our new stuff. So okay. Oh, and I guess we'll talk a little bit more about the release notes is the plan information. I talked earlier about, what are you going to be able to see in this queue or this agent detail report, depending on your plan. Well, now you can actually check to see what plan you have by selecting your person in the upper right-hand corner, and it will tell you the plan that you have. So that will help you determine whether you're going to get all of their data, or are they going to, like all of their, inbound, outbound data, or just queue data based on what plan you might have. Okay. All right, and I think some new questions. Oh, yeah, I see Ken. Yep, love the custom roles. Yeah, that is great. That's something we definitely needed. So, all right, I think that's it for what I was going to demo when it comes to the agent detail. Again, the Webex and Teams agent detail are mirrored, so they can both do the same thing as well. So, and I don't have any test data currently for the Teams data. Um, if you do have Teams and you do have this report, go ahead and you want to test it out, go ahead and run it on an agent that is taking both inbound and outbound calls. Okay.
We do
Where
have
can we
another
see?
question. Yeah.
I saw that. I saw that. I believe the plan matrix lives on our site, and you can look at, what we just redid. We just redid our site, so you're quizzing me on how fast I can get to it.
Pressure's on, and we're all watching, Adam.
I know, it's in here too, and I know what I'm looking for. Maybe not though. Oh wait, it's right here. Yeah. So here are Q Analytics pricings. Well, we've got the basic, the essentials, the professional, and the enterprise. Here is the plan matrix, and there might, Jane, or sorry, I guess Veronica, do you know if there's any more, like another document that is sent out to customers that kind of lists out anything additional or different between the plans that isn't
There
available?
isn't. No, honestly, this really just kind of summarizes everything that's included in each bundle.
Okay. As always, thanks for joining, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much, Adam.
Thanks.